Hey guys, it's Dobbo here. Now, the NRL season might be over, but that doesn't mean the fun can't stop with Ladbrokes. Now, our great friends at Ladbrokes, you go and download the Ladbrokes app. You can join Mates Mode. We'll be having a little flutter over the Spring Carnival, and also with the Ashes series coming up, go and join our pot inside ball and just watch this space. But if not, just get on, download the Ladbrokes app and join it today. I absolutely love Ladbrokes. I get on, I have a little flutter most weeks. Sometimes you go well, sometimes you even go better when you're with the Rainmaker. But hey, go and join it today. Yeah, go and join it today. Enjoy it. We've got lots more coming on. Go to the little bullseye where it says more, then you hit Mates Mode, then you go inside ball, join the revolution.
Okay, welcome to another special edition of the Inside Ball podcast, brought to you by Ladbrokes, of course. Now, we're jumping over into another sport today with Nick Stiles. Nick, welcome to the podcast, mate.
Oh, Kevie, great to be on.
Now, I know you're a long-time listener, mate.
I actually am. I've really loved the podcast this year. I like all my sports, in particular rugby league, and just, you know, even these in-depth interviews are the things I've really looked forward to.
Now, we're going to get into you about your career, with a great career, obviously, and then post-career, what you got into some coaching. And then, of course, R360, is it the real deal? What's happening in that space? But we'll start with your career first, mate. Now, you're born in Melbourne. How does that bloody work?
Well, you know what it's like. Dad found Mum, and Mum was from Melbourne, so we moved down there. And back in the days, Mum and Dad got married at 20 and 21, and in January, and punched me out in October. So I'm still sure about the maths there, Kevie.
Right.
But
don't
born
bring
in
up
Melbourne.
maths with me, mate. You'll survive well there. And then you moved to Brisbane, obviously. Rockhampton, via Rockhampton, was it?
Yeah, we actually moved with Dad's work a little bit, so we had a year.
So what'd your dad do?
In Rocky. Dad in those days was with Hanson Sykes Pumps and Rec Air. They were in those days, and then ended up with Boral Concrete.
Righto. Now straight to the dynamic questions. Yeah. Loose head prop. What's the difference to a leaguey for a loose head to tight head prop?
Loose head prop, basically.
You take all the weight in the scrum?
Tight head's the ones. You got to be brain dead to play tight head. They're the ones that can barely talk.
When they finish their careers.
Exactly. Tight heads have got a basically a head on both sides of them, so there's nowhere to hide. Right. Whereas at least loose head, you've got the tight head here, so this side's empty. So we've got a bit of space.
But obviously, it's a position that you need a lot of strength and the actual art of scrummaging, like in rugby league, you laugh when you see a rugby league scrum. But the rugby union scrums are still the real deal, aren't they?
Yeah, very technical. And with the change from when I was playing to now, where they've depowered the hit, like go back and look at the footage when I played, and it was a race to get there, and it was like first one set would generally win the scrum and just be bang, clash in.
Just collision.
And now they've taken that, that big collision out, but has now generated a scrum where it's just about pure force and size and bulk and power.
Yeah, but still, I would imagine a lot of skill in those scrums to win the ball and out what. Well, I'm going to say out hook, but it's not really that. It's out scrimmage.
You got to generate. You use all 8 people in the scrum. There's big bodies now, and how you generate force as a collective of an 8 and put it in the one direction and work together is
on
crucial.
A percentage, how much time would be spent on scrummaging in rugby union compared to the rest of the?
There's so many components in rugby, and that's one of the challenges when you compare it to rugby league is that because the contest for the ball is live at every breakdown. You got to put so much work into the clean out, the ball carry, and then throw in your set piece aspects around scrum and line out. So we got to break our sessions up into so many different pieces.
Yeah, right. Okay. Now, you're a former Australian schoolboys captain.
Yeah, going
you
back
went to
now.
Terrace, didn't you?
I went to Terrace. Yeah, no, Dad and all the Stiles were all Villa boys. And Dad, I think a bit unknown, but I think Dad got kicked out or politely asked to leave in year 11, so he didn't want me to go to Villa.
Right.
And we moved up from Sydney, I think, to Brisbane, and I was enrolled at Terrace, but couldn't get into Terrace to year 7. Right. And so I'd had my uniform everything to go for Villa. And Wednesday before Year 5 started, Terrace rang up, said, we've got a space, and Dad said, you're in.
You're in. Straight over you go.
Yeah.
Were you playing rugby then?
Yeah, I played rugby whole time. Dad loved rugby.
Yeah, he played, did he?
He played club rugby here at South, and I played my first rugby up in Rockhampton, and then played it my whole life.
And you rode as well as a kid?
Loved it, yeah. I only did that obviously at Terrace.
Yeah.
And back in those days, I started probably because it was what you did for pre-season for rugby.
Training,
but I grew to love rowing. I think the challenges of rowing and the discipline that teaches you as an athlete is something that you don't get as much in
were you in the eights?
Rode first 8 at Terrace.
Yeah.
If I was another 6 foot 6'6" and lean and tall, long limbs, I would have stuck with rowing, but I was never going to be a professional rower.
Right. So any trophies in the cabinet from the rowing days? Or what?
No trophies. Just a lot of good memories.
What do they call that? The head of the river.
Head of the river. Yeah.
You've been to that a few times, surely.
Yeah, I love the head of the river. Yeah, and it was a bit. We weren't that great at Terrace. We sort of so.
Yeah. Well, Narelle rode as my wife at school.
Oh, of course she did.
She loved the rowing. Yeah. Beautiful. So footy heroes when you were a kid, did you have any of them?
Yeah, I did. Dad played at South, and back in those days, Andrew Slack was at South as well, and he was also the Wallabies captain.
Yep.
And so to be able to go up there as a young kid, there was Andrew Slack and also Tom Lawton.
Yep.
And then as I got a little bit older, Dan Crowley.
Tommy Lawton was a hooker, wasn't he?
Yeah, big hooker.
Yep.
And so Tommy and Dan Crowley in particular were the guys that I really looked up to.
So you came through the club rugby scene here in Brisbane. South was your club?
South was my juniors club, and then played seniors there as well. And,
and then you flicked over, mate. What happened there?
Well,
a bit of cash,
no cash at clubland in Brisbane. Not back in those days. Yeah, no, I moved over to University of Queensland. That was it was really good. I hadn't made it yet, representative wise, and I just needed to freshen up. I was pouring beers at South when I was a 10-year-old. So I just knew the place and I was comfortable.
Back to front, got a bit comfortable.
And so the change to uni was good, and ended up making the Reds and going on from there.
So you started with the Reds in 1998, yeah? Yeah,
there. I think it's 97. I might have debuted against Hong Kong of all countries, and then didn't play Super Rugby till 1999 was my first Super game.
Right. Strong brand, the Reds, isn't it? Has always had. Like I remember, because I'm obviously rugby league background, but I played a bit of rugby at Ipswich Grammar, and the Reds brand throughout all that period, was so strong and good. I mean, even today, I think they're in a better space now, aren't they? But there were some lean years there.
Yeah, no, there were some tough times there. In particular when I suppose coaching, they were pretty struggling financially, but they've done a really good job of digging themselves out of that, getting a lot of stability out of Ballymore with the redevelopment there, and to set up now to be successful for a long time.
Right. What's your memories of your debut? Was it the Storm was in Cape Town?
Storm was in Cape Town. It was my Super Rugby debut.
Yeah,
and
that's a pretty tough initiation, mate.
Very tough one. And I wasn't actually picked till game day.
Right.
Dan Crowley was the starting prop. Who was someone obviously mentioned before. I looked up to him. And he'd had a hamstring strain all week. Now props don't do hamstrings.
They don't have hamstrings.
Don't have hamstrings. So they pushed him out as long as he could, and he actually did a fitness test in the hotel Saturday morning, running up and down the hallways.
Did you trip him or something?
I did. I just snuck the leg out, tripped him over. You know what it's like, kid.
Yes,
you got to do anything you can to get in.
You got to get a start, mate. Once you're in, then you can do something about it.
Yeah. So I got picked and played. There's a really famous South African player called Bobby Skinstad.
Right.
And he played the Storm. He was the rock star. He was the Wendell Sailor.
He was the Reece Walsh.
Reece Walsh. He was the blonde-haired, and
what position did he play?
He was a back rower.
Back rower. So he wasn't a flying fullback.
No, flying fullback.
He was tough, was he? Yeah?
Tough, but I put a late shot on him.
Oh, Nick.
Over the sideline.
What are you thinking,
and
mate?
got into a fight with him in my first game. I thought, what's going on in South Africa? I could get shot here.
Did you actually get punch
no
on?
real punches, just a bit of push and argy.
What were you thinking, mate? Just get a bit excited, the adrenaline, mate.
You know what it's like, first game.
Yes, mate. Yes, and then 2001, you cemented your spot in the side as a loose head prop. It was a good year for you, 2001?
Yeah, we had a good year at the Reds. We made the semi-finals. Back in those days, it was only 4 teams, so it was pretty ruthless, competition. And we played the Brumbies, and we lost to them in the semis, unfortunately. But I'd sort of had a really good year, become a starting player week in, week out, and then got an opportunity to play in the Wallabies in 01.
And you captained the Reds as well, didn't you?
Captain. I think I captained every side bar the Wallabies that I played in. So it was something that probably came a little bit naturally to me, and definitely captained the Reds on quite a few occasions.
Yeah, we'll get to your Wallabies career in a minute, but you retired from the Reds in 2005?
2005, finished up.
What's your memories of your last game, mate? You got much?
It wasn't a Super Rugby game because we still used to play a lot of touring teams. So I think it was against New Zealand Maoris and at Ballymore. So it was really great. Ballymore was a
You
place
wouldn't have played many games there then, was it?
Ballymore, no, we just moved to Suncorp in 2003, 04.
Yeah.
And so it was good to go back and finish my career at Ballymore.
Righto, let's get on to your Wallabies career. Do you remember the first time you were announced in the team, like how you felt? And do you remember? Yeah.
Well,
where were you? Was it a phone call or just read it in the?
No, it was 2000. I went on my first Wallabies tour, so I didn't end up getting capped on the 2000 tour to the UK.
That's like me. I went on
what
2 tours.
What do you call it on the tours?
Kangaroo tour, emus.
Emus, that's right, emus. So,
So 2000.
So 2000 was my first Wallabies tour.
Right, where'd you go?
We went to the UK.
Oh, how good!
But the story on it, Kevie, is that in January of 2000, I got engaged to my wife, Anna. And, we'd had a good season and started, there could be a chance here for Wallabies tour. And we hadn't planned on it being in the Wallabies in January. So we booked the wedding for November. And we got a bit close to the date and got picked for the Wallabies, and it clashed with the wedding.
What happened?
The wedding got cancelled straight away. We just, not cancelled. We pushed that back.
Pushed it back to what, January?
Pushed it back till December too, in a week's time. So coming up to 25 years. So that's the story on that.
That's pretty cool. And how was the tour? You first up as a young fella, it would have been fantastic.
Oh, it was great. Went over to the UK, just like a tour you've just been on, and
so how long were you away for?
4 or 5 weeks. Yeah. Good tours in those days.
Twickenham and all, playing England.
Twickenham's, France, all those Wales. So, but 2001 was my debut year, and I was pretty lucky to get picked in the Wallabies that year because that was a British and Irish Lions tour.
What a year to be picked.
Oh, it was unreal.
Yeah. Now, your debut, though, wasn't against them, was it? It was against New Zealand Maori? Was that right?
Yeah, so that wasn't capped, but so...
Oh, right.
Yeah, it was...
That's not an official debut.
Not an official debut. Where I was dirty on that because back in the 50s and 60s, they used to be capped when you played in the Maoris. And, it's like you want to get your first game for Australia. You don't care who's it against.
No, my first game for Australia, I think was in 1991 against the Kummels up there in PNG, yeah. So that was my debut, yeah. All right. You scored a try in that game.
I did against the
New Zealand Maori.
Yeah,
do you remember the try or not?
I do really well. We're front row.
40 metre.
I didn't score as many as you 5'8",
Well, I think the front row will score a few tries at it.
Yeah, I did actually.
Close to the line, you just get the ball.
I used to call the line-outs at the club in particular, a bit of the Reds. So I'd throw it to the spot where I'd come around, rip the ball and come out and score the try.
Yes.
But no, that try against the Maoris, remember it really well because there was a set move from a line-out, but Toto Kefu would run around and then he'd flick the ball back inside and everyone would go at Kef, obviously, and there'd be a big hole for me on the inside.
Was there a big space there?
Yeah, there's a good little space there.
That's beautiful, mate. Righto, 2001, you're playing against the British and Irish Lions. Right, that must have been a great experience here in Brizzy.
Yeah, well, obviously this year, they toured again. They only tour every 12 years for those people who don't realise. So to have been lucky enough to have debuted, in a Lions touring year was special. But, it was here in Brisbane with the family around. But of all places, it was at the Gabba, not a traditional rugby venue.
Yeah, I remember because I'd retired that year from rugby league. And I just remember the red, the sea of red through Paddington, the city. And then the Gabba. Well, I didn't get to the game, but must have been amazing.
Oh, caught everyone off guard, and I think that tour changed how Australian rugby fans supported the Wallabies. It used to be the old tweed jackets, and you didn't come in any of the jerseys or any of the patches there.
Yeah.
But after that tour, that game, at the Gabba, where we ran out and it was just a sea of red for the second game down in Melbourne, there was a really big push to show you true colours and wear gold.
And that's when they started wearing the Wallaby jerseys.
That's where it changed, and that was the turning point.
Yeah, well, I think you see most sports now that's all they wear the colours, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I remember what you're saying. But State of Origin's always been wear your maroon, kit, and particularly for Australia. I think that's amazing. Right, Melbourne, you went down there, 35-14. How good's that?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, and also at that era, there hadn't been. We'd stopped the tours where like the All Blacks would come over and you'd play 3 consecutive Test matches. It was into the Tri Nations, what it was called back there, where you're playing in tournaments, but not that consecutive, not like State of Origin. So you didn't have those 3 games in the series.
Yeah,
and so that was the first tour for a long time where we'd had a series, and so losing the first game up here in Brisbane,
so you stayed together.
It was on the line.
You didn't go.
No,
didn't go back to your clubs or whatever.
It was 3 consecutive
bang,
weeks.
Bang, bang,
it was do or die. You know what it's like. And we came away. We got the win there. And
that's a pretty good win though.
It was a massive win. Yeah. And it was only sort of got turned at half time. Joe Roff, who was really famous,
Joe Roff,
winger, he got an intercept just on half time, and that just got us back in the game. It gave us a bit of confidence, and the second half we came out and blew them off the park.
Was that the MCG, that one?
No, that was at Etihad or at Marvel Stadium. At Marvel, they call it now. So, roof was on. It was the noise was unreal, and being born in Melbourne, and Mum's the eldest of 10.
Yeah, right.
And so they're all down there.
Tickets, please.
It was unreal. Even to the point I've got an uncle who's only a few years older than me. We're in the change rooms, and he just had this knack of finding his way into the confidence. He'd walk past security just like he was meant to be. He walked in with Johnny Howard.
Yeah, right.
There he is, arm in arm with Johnny to celebrate with the boys.
How good. Nothing better than a winning dressing room, is there?
None better.
How good. Righto, then Game 3 in Sydney. You've managed to win that one as well, win the series.
Yeah, it was obviously Australia still to this point hasn't beaten the Lions except for that tour. So
really?
Yeah, it's the only time in history we've beaten.
Because they rarely get beaten.
They're just such a good side.
The Lions are a culmination of all the European teams, aren't they?
Yeah, well, all the home nations. Yeah, so Scotland, Ireland, England and Wales. So, they're putting together the best players from 4 countries, and that's why it's always been hard to beat them.
Yeah, because the Aussies didn't beat them this year when they were out, did they?
No, they lost in first 2 games.
Right, so that would have been good. Do you celebrate, just get on the piss after them wins?
Yeah, we I think we won a lot of trophies back in those days. When I came into the Wallabies, they'd won the World Cup in 1999 beforehand. So sort of there'd been this real belief about who we were. You know what it's like in your days at the Broncos. It was just that confidence. And so, it was a really tough game, the third game in Sydney. But, we had really good leaders like John Eales, George Gregan. They just gave you so much direction and calmness about belief of who we were. But there was the big thing was there was a line-out turnover late in the game where, the Lions were going to, good chance of scoring and try and winning. And Justin Harrison, it was his debut game, won this famous line-out, and that was the end of the game, and we kicked it out and won the game.
Yeah, beautiful. And the Bledisloe Cup was on that year as well. Geez, how do you fit all this in?
Yeah, it's pretty good. My first game against the All Blacks was actually over in New Zealand. And
what's it like facing the haka?
Oh, it's so good, Kevie.
Yeah.
It really is. And it's just because too, I grew up in rugby, and you understood the passion, the history of it, and to actually, you watched it for so many years as a kid, but then to be out there and watching it live, and just the intensity of it, and you just embraced it. It doesn't scare you, it doesn't put fear through you, but it builds yourself up with the intensity around it.
So where was that game?
That was over in New Zealand in Dunedin, and
Dunedin,
and once again, Wallabies had never won a Test match.
Is that the university town, Dunedin? Is that
yeah. So a good place to win and go out and party afterwards, Kevie.
Well, Was that the last time we won the Bledisloe?
Yeah, well, that was 01. 2002 we won it again, but
Right.
that's the last.
That's the last time.
Last time we've won it. So.
Well, it must be just so hard these days.
Well,
What's the go?
it's so hard, and we've probably is a reflection on where Australian rugby's been in the last 10, 15 years.
Because those years, as you say, they were pretty elite for Australian rugby, weren't they?
Yeah.
Like some of the all-time great players.
And
all time.
they weren't just great Australian players. They're some of the greatest players to have played rugby.
So
John Eales,
Ealesy.
Timmy Horan, Jason Little, Toto Kevie. Like the list just goes on and on.
Yeah. Now, I'm reading at the moment Knuckles' book.
Oh yeah, how's that? I haven't got that
good,
yet.
Yeah. You're in there. You're in there with Knuckles. He coached you, didn't he?
Yeah, he coached me. Yeah, I sort of. Knuckles was one of those funny old coaches. It sort of.
Well, he's a scrapper, mate.
He's a scrapper, and I'll never forget my first game that I played for. One of my early games, for Queensland, we're playing against New South Wales, and it wasn't a Super Rugby game, but it was down in Sydney. And Knuckles, because he knew I was a bit of a fiery bloke, and I loved Queensland. He got my ear all week, just got me fired up, and we go out there and playing against Matt Dunning, and just first Knuckles straight on, come, and we won the game, and Knuckles was as proud as punch.
Oh, he loved that, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, his book we'll give it a wrap on here now on the podcast. It's a good, really good read. It's unfortunate.
Oh, just
That's
incredible
freakish.
to think, someone who's done what he did and then to have a freakish accident falling off the veranda effectively.
Yeah. But what success he had around them. But anyway, we'll get back to us here, mate. And 2002, the one, the Bledisloe, Eddie Jones. What was he like as a coach? He would have been a bit different, wasn't he?
He was, like you see him, he's fiery as now, but trust me, back when he was younger, he didn't want to be on his bad side.
Right.
And it was, you'd be...
But what was his style of coaching?
He was incredible.
He's a motivator?
No, a motivator in certain ways. But he was technically, tactically that far ahead of the game back in that era. And how he designed his training sessions, the week, the season was without doubt one of the best going around the world. But if you copped a spray off Eddie, it was a pretty special spray. I remember we were in South Africa once, and we're on the end of a tour before we're going to go over to the UK, and it was like we're back at school. We're sitting in chairs outside this room. It was like we're at the headmaster, waiting to see the headmaster and cop the cane. It was just... The bloke would come out, he's just been sprayed as, I'm up next now, this isn't going to be good.
Wow, so he just lined you up one by one?
Destroyed you. No chance of work now, it's probably why it was...
he's coaching still now,
he's in Japan. Yeah, back in Japan.
He didn't go so well with the Wallabies here, did he?
Why
didn't that work for him?
Kevie...
Just because... He coached England as well, didn't he?
He very successful with England. Eddie's been successful wherever he's been.
Yeah.
He went assistant at South Africa when they won a World Cup. He's been to a final with England in the World Cup. And listen, I thought he would have been great for us, but just for whatever reason came in, blew it all up, and
so you've got to start
was a disaster.
Righto. You got any Wallaby stories? You can share some of your favourite ones. Favourite moments on tour.
Listen, some of the favourite moments for me, I was lucky that I played with Toto Kevie and Brendan Cannon in particular, and we'd come through at South at the same club together. Our dads were up played together at the seniors, and so to be little kids running around on the sideline, it was playing touch rugby when we're 19 years of age, to then go and win these big tournaments and just sitting in the change rooms post game and after a big win. They were the moments that I loved the most.
Yeah. Particularly when you're away and touring, it's like it's just so much fun, and when you win, it sort of puts it right in perspective as such. What about some of the best players you played against? Who's really rattled your cage a bit and got under your skin?
Oh, listen, to any tight head prop that you're backed against. I wasn't the biggest of props or the strongest of guys. And
how much did you weigh when you were playing for Australia?
113 probably.
Right, so you were a lightweight.
A lighter weight, especially in today's. We look at them now, and they're just absolute
what
animals.
They, 120,
They'd be 120 plus now, and chiseled.
Who's the best tight head prop in the world now, you reckon?
On his day, Taniela Tupu, I still think, for absolute power, what he brings to a scrum, and then what he can do around the field when he's at his best, I think so dynamic.
Yeah, okay. When we were over on the Kangaroo Tour, the South Africans were staying at the same hotel as us, and the size of them blokes. You know, you think that Tino Fa'asuamaleaui and Paddy Carrigan and these blokes are big bodies, and then you see these South African. Huge, they're back rowers.
And just the height in them as well, and the thickness of their chest and their shoulders, and they're huge, you know, and across the board. And that's the thing with rugby, is it a little bit different to league, where you genuinely do get all different shapes. Big man, you know, and when you see them in the flesh and understand how big they are now, it's pretty scary.
And they're obviously well trained as well, so they're
and that's where when South Africa came into, you know, when rugby went professional, they'd sort of been in the wilderness a little bit because of apartheid and, you know, the sanctions on them, and so they were always big units when I played them, but they hadn't sort of really got on to the fitness aspect of it, and then, you know, it took them 10, 15 years, but once they nailed that, they're a force at the moment.
Yeah, so the All Blacks were obviously the hardest team to play against, were they?
Yeah, back in those days, definitely. You know, they were, and still are, one of the best teams in the world, but they were just so dominant back then that they were massive clashes. And Australia, we were the number one ranked team back in those days, so they were always 1v2, which produces good outcomes.
Yeah, great outcomes, and they were full of stars and world class players too, weren't they? Back in the, they still are now, but back in the day.
You know, back in those days, you know, Jonah Loma,
big Jonah.
I actually got to play against Jonah. You mentioned Australian schoolboys before, and he was in that schoolboys, New Zealand schoolboys team I played against.
Yeah,
you know, they had about,
was he as big then in the schoolboys?
He was huge, and he played number 8 back in those days.
Did he?
Yeah. And
someone shifted him to the wing, eh?
Yeah, and then he got not many go back. Out of the forwards into the wings, and it shows you how good he was. That he's been one of the few that's ever done that.
What a player! Like all of us, you finished your career and you got into smart decision. You got into coaching. Well, mate, you've had a great career. Really. You've been all around the world coaching, haven't you?
No,
from the Reds and over in Japan.
That's one of the good things about rugby, is it genuinely is, you know, a world game. You know, I know with league, there's a big expansion at the moment into the international game, but it's still limited, whereas rugby, you've got a lot of different opportunities. And so started coaching here in Brisbane first at UQ, but then a couple of years there. I wanted to take my time with coaching, you know, sort of. I think probably one of the mistakes that the modern day, you know, coach does, especially a former player, they want to be the head coach the next day. And where I wanted to take my time.
At the elite level though.
At the elite level, I'm talking, you know. And so went over to Japan, and that was fantastic experience.
How'd you go with that? Because I coached in France.
It was at the same time we went over. You know, we both went overseas.
Exactly the same time.
And you know, obviously having kids the same age, that brings different challenges. But what I really enjoyed about Japan, outside of the time we got to spend together as a family, because you sort of get isolated because of the language barrier, so you spend really good time. But it was around the coaching, because it was a different language and there was no English, that it made you as a young coach really think about what you said. Because I reckon one of the mistakes, another mistake a lot of coaches make now, they want to talk too much. They want to, you know, sort of let the playing group know how much they know as a coach. And it's not bad, but just when you're in Japan and it's got to go through a translator, you've got to make sure what you say is specific. So I reckon, ironically, being in a non-English speaking country helped me with my communication skills.
Definitely, mate. Definitely. So, can you speak any Japanese? You obviously speak.
I've also had 2 stints in Japan, and so you pick up enough to know how to order a beer and order food at the restaurants and survive. And what you do get good at is your hearing. So by the end of my second stint, you'd be sitting in meetings and you know the context of what's being spoken about, and then you'd have to bluff it a bit too, Kevie. You got to let them think you knew that you had more Japanese than you actually did.
Yeah, righto. That's fair enough too. What sort of level is the Japanese rugby at the moment? They'd only beat Australia, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. And they've had a couple of periods of time.
Do they get a lot of imports in, don't they?
A lot of imports, and it's a fantastic place for a rugby player to go to as a player, because you don't play as many games.
Right. So what's the season?
It's not as
how long?
16 games.
Right.
You know, and it's not as intense, so it doesn't knock you around as much. So you can have a long career there as a player. And the standards definitely improved because in my first stint back in 07 when I went, a lot of the clubs were still that sort of amateur, semi-professional, but over the last 15 years, they've all transitioned full-time, their professional programs, and now they're paying top dollar. Like you go there and
what's top dollar for if you're
1 million plus. If you're a top line player, you're legitimately up over $1 million. And so they are gone from getting players years ago that were at the end of their career and on a little, we used to call it a DFC, a dash for cash.
Super fun.
Exactly. But now they're getting players in their prime and world-class players.
Yes. So can you play in Japan and play for the Wallabies?
Well, now you can because Australia have loosened up the selection things.
What about the All Blacks?
No, All Blacks have still got to select from home because it's one of the mechanisms that the Australian rugby have used to try and keep players in Australia for longer because they can't compete with the money you can get in France and Japan. So it was like the lure of the Wallabies jersey, to keep players here. If you want to go overseas, go and earn your money, but you're not going to play for the Wallabies. But what's changed?
Was it the Giddo law? I think they called it?
Then the Giddo law came in, and if there was if you played 50 Test caps or been in Australia for so long, you could get picked.
Right.
But he was the only one they used. But now it's an open slather. But they're still being selective around who they're picking.
Righto. So you recommend that for a young coach coming through?
Yeah, definitely. I think
go and cut your teeth over there.
It got you in a professional program, so learning how to design your yearly programs, your training sessions, and you weren't in the limelight. As we know, it's pretty fickle, and you've got to learn your craft, and that's where Japan was good because you did it without the scrutiny of the media, the fans, the sponsors, because you didn't really the board. You weren't involved in that aspect there. You just coached.
Yeah. Brilliant. Right, then you come back to the Western Force for a couple of years over there as a forwards coach.
Yeah.
Then you landed the Reds job in a turbulent time for the Reds, wasn't it? Jeez. And then the Rugby Championships. That was an initiative. Is that they still play that?
No, unfortunately, that's probably one of the things where I think we're struggling with Australian rugby is that we've cut that tier between club rugby and super rugby because it is a massive gap now.
Yeah.
Whereas back in the first time they brought it in was 2007. They brought in an ARC, so the same thing as the national championship, but they cut it after 1 year because it was too expensive. But when you actually look at the players that played in the ARC and the players that played in the NRC when I coached in, I think that was 14 and 15, they've been generational talents for the Wallabies, and so investing into those guys, you get them more experience, you build on the cohesion. That was a big thing. The Reds' success, while I didn't get to have the success when I was coaching there, what we did in 2014-15 with our young kids, we put them into the NRC, we put them in similar positions, so they built cohesion around the combinations and got game time together, which then ultimately gave them a better chance of succeeding at Super Rugby level, 2018, 19, 20.
Yeah, well, what's your mate? He's got a company in that space, isn't he?
Ben Darwin.
Yeah,
so I'm a big believer.
Is he still doing that?
Yeah, he's still doing that. They're still working around the world. And it's a simple concept, right? Of cohesion.
But getting all the numbers and the data
But as you know, Kevie, it's one thing to pick a team or have a belief on a gut feel, but when you can actually put some data behind it
definitely.
And it feeds into your strategy around it, then it's really clear.
I think it's any of that data and that analysis that you can get to help you select your sides invaluable. Right, you won that 2 years in a row.
Back-to-back champs.
Brisbane City.
Yeah. Great
so
times.
who was playing in that?
And I had sort of the next generation of players coming through. So
the younger ones.
So I had the stacked younger ones. So Samu Kevie wasn't a household name at that stage. Used that tournament to come through. Liam Gill. There was
lots of young ones coming through.
A lot of great young players.
And then you got the Reds job, 16 and 17, right? Which I was doing the Queensland State of Origin side at that time as well. On the back probably the success from the NRC that then ended up being appointed full time in 2017, and only had the one season, Kevin as head coach, but had 4 years there coaching the Reds, which I definitely enjoyed. Yeah, and then you went back to Japanese rugby, and then ended up down at the Rebels. Geez, you're a journeyman, mate, eh?
Yeah, no, it's been great. I've had 2 stints in Japan. I've lived in Perth for 3 years and just had 4 years down in Melbourne. So, definitely had some great times and experiences.
And the Rebels are finished now, eh? What's happening down there?
No, that was. It's funny. It was pretty tough times in the last season because the club went into receivership. And administration, and then Rugby Australia took over the running of the club or the ownership of the club, and we uncertainty around the future, and we had to still play the season, and we put so much work into building a culture, a playing list and staff, and we got to that point where we had all that really set in stone, and then we had, under all that adversity of uncertainty with our future, we had our best season in Melbourne Rebels history and made the finals. So it was really rewarding, even though it was such difficult times. It was so rewarding personally that we, everything we built for 3 years under the pressure that we went through came to fruition.
Oh, that's brilliant, mate. So what are you doing with yourself now? You're just relaxing and enjoying the Queensland summer? Or
no, I've still, the Rebels finished over 12 months ago, and I've still been working down in Melbourne with Victorian Rugby Union, and the government was just looking at, there's some high performance facilities down there, and then also looking at the pathways and what the possibility of professionalism could look like moving forward.
Righto. Great career coach, still going obviously like myself. Now this R360.
Yeah.
Tell me about
this. Is what we're really here for,
mate. Because
who cares about all the rugby stuff? All your league fans.
We're worried, mate.
Payne Haas is gone.
He's not.
He's gone. There's your headline, Kevie.
Oh, tell me he's not, Nick.
Oh, I don't know, Kevie.
What's happening? So how does this all eventuate, R360?
R360. So listen, R360 is sort of...
What is it?
It's come about because if you look at the rugby, the strength of rugby is our international game.
Definitely.
It is strength of it, the tournaments like the World Cup, the Six Nations.
Well, the one that just had recently.
The British and Irish Lions, the spring tour, all those things. Like the game is thriving internationally.
Yeah, but playing to packed stadiums.
Packed stadiums everywhere. But where it's struggling at is at that level underneath, the club level, in terms of professional, Super Rugby, those levels is where it's financially difficult.
Right.
It's expensive to run, player costs are high, and you don't get the home and away full season like you do because of, like you do in NRL.
Yeah.
Because
so
it's got to be shorter.
Rugby, if you're the Reds, you play against the New Zealand team once, and it could be at home.
You'll have 7 home.
Do you play all the?
No, yeah, you do, but you only have 7 home games.
Right.
To make all your money.
Right. It's not enough.
It's not enough. So that's why there's so much pressure financially at that level. So basically, this R360 have gone. What we're seeing is players, and in the UK it's different because they play a truckload of club games.
Yep.
And so they're saying,
and they have 3 competitions.
And 3 competitions, all this sort of stuff. So came about saying we want to get the best players at club level, play less games, pay them more, but have a different model and model it a bit more like the Formula One do and the tennis do with their majors, where
and the Live Golf
and the Live Golf, where you're making an event over a whole weekend that's actually not about the rugby itself. Like the rugby games are there, but to complement that, you've got concerts, you've got the bar. You're trying to bring in non-rugby fans to an event for a weekend. So that's the concept of it.
Right.
And so what they've been trying to do is, capital raise money.
So how many teams are they looking at? Do you know?
It's changed a little bit. I think they want to get up and running and have 6 teams.
6 teams.
But have as much elite talent.
Players.
Get as much elite talent as they can around the world, pay them very well.
Yep.
And then...
So what, a team in London, a team in...
No, all the teams would be actually centrally based to start with, from what we believe, like in Dubai,
right.
And then they'd play these tournaments around the world. So it's actually a very different model to what you're probably used to.
Yeah.
But just keep thinking F1 and tennis.
Well, my mate Peter Volandis thinks it's It's not going to happen, mate.
Well, of course he's going to. Your mate's going to say that,
Well,
you know.
you
and
know.
listen, he's probably right. Who knows, you know? But like, what it is, it's
and he's come up been pretty heavy-handed with the sanctions.
yeah, he's just trying to bluff some of those.
No, he's not a bluffer, Peter. He's a
But
doer.
there's a way. He's not a bluffer.
He's not a bluffer. He's a doer.
But there's ways around everything. Like you can't tell me if Payne Haas was to go right. Just say it got up and Payne Haas went and R360 finished in 3 years' time. For example, there is no way you'd not take him back.
Well, that's
Sonny Bill Williams came back.
Yeah, I know.
He was ostracised.
Right,
he came back and won a competition.
Right, so he's going to. So the R360 concept will drag all these elite players into
Into
Dubai
these
somewhere?
teams, Dubai, and then you go and play around the world in
so they play a game
You travel in Madrid, in London, in Tokyo.
Will they play a game in Australia?
Well, listen. Originally
Probably a bit
they were
far.
trying to, but I think they were talking of just trying to get the competition up and running. So
Right.
and that's where it's at the moment, Kevie. There's a
Right.
bit of uncertainty.
So what about
if
these
it's
guys,
actually gonna get
these
up.
leagueies that are pulling out? Do you think they've actually signed, or what are they?
I would think they've signed letters of intent, which
Right.
mean nothing.
Right, and the competition is meant to start next year. In
October next year. They're
Right.
talking. So their letter of intents, they're not fixed. I would say, and I don't know, but I would say with Lomax and Pap, both pulling out of their league contracts, that they would have the possibility of an R360 contract. So they might have signed a letter of intent.
Yeah.
But if that falls through, I would imagine that they would go and do a Sonny Bill Williams. They'd go and play in France, or then
Right.
they'd go to Japan, because what I touched on earlier, so Pappenhausen, who's very injury prone, incredible player, he could go and play in Japan. How old would Pap be now?
Maybe 24,
So
25.
he could have another 10 plus years, 15 years in Japan if he wanted to.
Yeah.
Less games, less intensity of the NRL, and be paid more over there. So he would have that security of knowing he could go and do that if he wanted to.
Right. So it still is a possibility, you think?
Possibility, but for me, I'm getting a little bit concerned
Right.
because what I'd heard was the original date for the contracts to become live was back in October. And it was funny when the announcement about Pap pulling out of his contract, I think if you have a look, it could have been October 30.
Yeah.
And so straight away, I've gone bang.
It's
next day, it's going to be announced R360, and then nothing happened. And so, and then now we're getting towards the end of November now.
Yeah.
And for me, time always kills deals. When I was a GM down at the Rebels, you're contracting. If something dragged on and you couldn't get a word, you start to get worried. So if I was a player like a leaguey or a rugby player who thought they were going to go there, I'd be getting pretty nervous now.
Well, yeah, the Payne Haas model is swinging, isn't it? I thought he was gone to this.
I reckon he was definitely gone.
But I think he's been pulled back and swung.
Well, I don't know if
now.
he's been pulled back. I think it's just as every day would go by and you're not getting money committed to you from the R360 deal, you start to get nervous.
Yeah.
And then a smart agent would then be leveraging that off. He'd be waiting for that phone call from your mate, Volandis. Hey, come back to league. Okay, I'll come back. Give me a little bit on the side, Kevie. Super League days.
That's how it works. But look, I stand behind. I don't have a problem with any of these players sort of trying to earn some extra money. I don't feel that's an issue. But I do like the stance that Peter has taken. If you do go, well, you're going for 10 years. So I don't know whether.
But why, Kev? What's good for the goose, good for the gander? Like, you go and get Marky Mark comes over just on your tour.
Yeah.
So you go and get players out of rugby union. So what
I know.
You're an athlete. You
no
go
one
and
can
play
need to
wherever.
ask how good a player. Was he that good in rugby?
Yeah, he was very good. Yeah,
Jeez,
absolutely.
Mate, he's a great style of a bloke too.
Oh, yeah.
Lovely fella.
What a player.
What a player he is. He had a great series as well, although he didn't score a try, but he was in everything good about the Kangaroos.
Yeah.
And there's some talk around him going to, not 360, is it, but more...
No, he'll go back.
So he wants to play a World Cup, does he?
He wants to play a World Cup. So he'll go back. So he'll finish off Roosters, I would imagine.
Yeah,
and I don't know. This is just what in my head. I think he'd play Roosters in 26. He'd finish that. He could even go and squeeze in a Japanese season if he wanted to. Not even play Super Rugby.
Could even squeeze in a League World Cup at the end of 26.
Ooh, maybe. Maybe. So maybe he goes Japan, does a season in Japan, and then comes back and just straight into the Wallabies side for the World Cup.
He'd be a walk-up start there, wouldn't he?
Definitely, yeah. Well, they need depth. You look, the Wallabies are struggling at the moment.
Yeah, what's happened? This will be our final chapter in the potty. What's happened to the Wallabies, mate? I mean, they've had their worst year in what, 50 years?
Nearly history. You know, I think the first time they've ever lost 10 Test matches in a year. First time that they've gone on the UK tour and not won a game since the 50s or 60s. So, definitely challenging. There's things you like about the team. I think how they're playing and their commitment. And they seem really tight as a group, which I think
and
probably
together
wasn't the case a few years ago. And so you need those things as some fundamentals. But I think at the moment they're just probably not playing their best rugby.
So
really
it's not a talent thing? Is it not
a talent thing. No, I just think they played really well through the Lions series, came out of that, had a good win or two, but then you know what it's like at that level. The teams study you so hard and you've got to adapt and pivot, and I just don't know whether we've adapted as much over the last few months, and we're just tightened up with our game and just struggling to get those wins.
So we got 2 years to get it in line to. Are we a chance of winning the World Cup in a couple of years, do you think?
I'm concerned at the moment because how they're handling the whole coaching transition. It's something that is like once you start to try and get a coach transition, and it just never works well for various reasons. Best plans can work, but they've already appointed Les Kiss as the Wallabies coach for next year.
Yeah, but he's going to coach Queensland.
But he's got to coach Queensland because he was contracted there because RA couldn't work out a deal to get him out of that contract.
Oh.
And even worse, it's just come out that he's not even coaching the Wallabies straight away after the Super Rugby season. There's like 3 Test matches where
Joe Schmidt.
No, he's not coaching. It's Joe Schmidt still. So there's 3 Test matches left. So I think Rugby Australia has totally butchered the management of the transition of the coach. And Joe Schmidt's an incredible coach. Don't get me wrong at all. But when you know he's not going to be there at the World Cup, Les Kiss, they should have done absolutely everything they could to get Les Kiss in to coach as early as possible so he could build for the World Cup.
Yeah, for that spring tour then.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, well, that makes sense to me, but people above us, mate, they make these decisions.
By his board members and CEOs,
mate.
They're a lot smarter than coaches. That's why they're there, Kevie.
Let's not go there, Nick. Anyway, great to have you on the show, mate. Finally, we got you on. What's the future looking like for you, mate? What are you going to be doing? You want to stay in rugby, obviously?
Yeah, I'll do a few different things.
You want to coach again?
No.
If the opportunity came up?
I really enjoyed. I'll do some coaching, but I really enjoyed that GM side of it, the whole program, the business side of it.
Yeah.
I'll see how things evolve over the next period of time. But I'll come back up and probably do a little bit of stuff.
Good people find jobs, mate. You're a great person. You'll be fine. And you live in a great suburb and state. Good on you, brother. Thanks for coming on,
Kevie.
man. Thanks, Nick. Cheers, man.
Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website